The highway stretched out before me, a ribbon of asphalt cutting through the night. My headlights were the only source of light for miles, illuminating the empty road ahead. The radio crackled with static, and I fiddled with the dial, trying to find something to drown out the oppressive silence. It was late, later than I should have been out here alone, and fatigue clung to me like a second skin. But home wasn't far now, just a few more miles. As I drove, my eyes darted to the rearview mirror out of habit. The back seat was empty, as it always was. I looked back to the road, but an uneasy feeling gnawed at the edges of my consciousness. Something wasn't right. I glanced at the mirror again and my breath caught in my throat. A face stared back at me, pale with hollow eyes, its skin stretched tight over prominent cheekbones. The lips were thin, almost non-existent, and the eyes, those eyes were bottomless pits, staring directly into mine. My heart hammered in my chest, and I jerked the wheel slightly, causing the car to swerve. I whipped around, expecting to see something in the back seat. But there was nothing there, just the empty upholstery, as it should be. My pulse pounded in my ears as I turned back to the road, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. I told myself it was just the fatigue, a trick of the light maybe. But the face had been so clear, so vivid. I shook my head, trying to dismiss it. Maybe I was more tired than I realized. I needed to focus, to keep my eyes on the road and get home. But the memory of those eyes clung to me like a shadow. Another glance at the mirror. The face was there again, closer this time. Its eyes bore into mine, as if trying to crawl into my very soul. I gasped, nearly losing control of the car again. My heart raced, and I could feel sweat beading on my forehead. The temperature in the car seemed to plummet, my breath coming out in short, visible puffs. I turned around again, but the back seat was empty, as it had been moments ago. I rubbed my eyes, trying to clear the image from my mind. It had to be a hallucination. I hadn't slept much in the past few days, and now it was catching up to me. That was it, right? Just a tired mind playing tricks. But every time I blinked, I could see that face, those eyes, so full of malice, so impossibly close. I forced myself to focus on the road ahead, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I was alone in the car. I had to be alone. But the air felt different, heavier somehow, like I wasn't the only one breathing it. My hand hovered over the radio, fingers shaking as I tried to find a station, any sound to break the thick silence. Static. The same crackling static, no matter how much I turned the dial. I didn't want to look, but my eyes were drawn to the mirror again, as if pulled by some invisible force. The face was there, just inches from mine. I could see every detail now, the dark hollows where eyes should be, the thin, bloodless lips twisted into a faint smile, as if it knew something I didn't. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. I could barely breathe. The cold in the car had seeped into my bones, numbing me. I slammed on the brakes, skidding to a stop in the middle of the deserted highway. My heart raced as I slowly turned around, the breath catching in my throat. Empty. The back seat was empty, as it had been all along. My chest heaved with ragged breaths, my hands trembling on the wheel. I reached up to touch the mirror, half expecting it to be ice cold, but it was just glass, smooth, unremarkable. For a moment I sat there in the dark, the car idling softly beneath me, trying to regain my composure. Maybe I was losing it, finally cracking under the pressure of too many sleepless nights. I forced a laugh, but it came out weak, shaky. Then something moved in the mirror. I froze, every muscle in my body tensing as I watched. The face was back, and it was different now. Its smile had widened, revealing teeth, sharp and yellowed. It was too close, far too close, its breath whispering across my ear, though I knew it wasn't real. It couldn't be real, but it felt real. My heart thundered in my chest, and I twisted in my seat, desperate to see what wasn't there. My eyes scanned the back seat again, finding nothing but darkness. No face, no figure. The rational part of my mind screamed that it was all in my head, just a product of exhaustion and fear. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was with me, something I couldn't see, something that didn't want me to see it. I forced myself to drive, the road blurring in my vision. I needed to get home, needed to be somewhere with light, with people, somewhere safe. But every glance at the mirror brought that face back into focus, always closer, always more real. It was as if it were trying to force its way into my reality, to pull me into its world. I was trapped in a nightmare, and I didn't know if I could wake up. The lights of my town finally came into view, a distant glow on the horizon. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. The face in the mirror shifted, its smile stretching into something grotesque, something inhuman. And then, for the first time, it moved, not just in the mirror, but in the car, a flicker of shadow in the corner of my eye. A cold hand touched my shoulder. I screamed, swerving off the road and into the gravel shoulder, the car skidding to a halt. My heart pounded in my chest, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. I sat there, paralyzed, unable to turn around, unable to look at the mirror again. I didn't need to. I knew it was still there watching me, waiting. I'm not alone. I've never been alone, and I'm not sure I ever will be again.